I wanted to welcome everyone to Northwest Renal Network's first in a three-part series, NHSN Step by Step. We're presenting this in conjunction with the Oregon Patient Safety Commission. And as many of you know, NHSN registration and reporting is being required under the Quality Incentive Program. And in a way to help networks in our facility and some in the other parts of the country, Northwest Renal Network has teamed up with Oregon Patient Safety Commission to provide this three-part series to walk you through really NHSN enrollment, dialysis event surveillance and reporting, and then reviewing of event surveillance module and reporting. So we think we have a couple great, or three great webinars planned for you that will help you walk through really the process step by step of what you need to do to get prepared and to register directly for NHSN. My name is Chad Lennox. I'm the Executive Director of the Northwest Renal Network here in Seattle. And on the phone I also have Mary Post and also Sarah. Sarah, I don't know how to say your last name. I apologize.
That's okay. It's Exuvian.
Both from the Oregon Patient Safety Commission. And they're going to walk us through today how to register and download the information for NHSN. As a couple housekeeping, if you are on the phone, hit *6. That'll put you on mute. Please don't put us on hold because some of you have background music and the rest of us end up hearing it. So *6 is to put yourself on mute. And if you want to take yourself off mute later, it is *6 again. With that, I wanted to go ahead and get started. I wanted to introduce Sarah. Sarah joined the Oregon Patient Safety Commission in October of 2011 as a data analyst for the Quality Improvement Collaborative. She has a background in women's and children's research and has managed quality initiatives at large healthcare organizations and has designed processes for project-specific implementation. She has a BS in psychology and an MA in conflict resolution, both from Portland State University. So with that, I wanted to turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. I understand we're going to be covering quite a bit of information today. So know that this slide set that I'm going to go through is really going to be used for your reference. So some things I'll touch on briefly, and other things it's really just to point you out and to get you started. So I'm coming from a place where we help clinics enroll. Can everyone hear me okay? You can just say yes, it's okay. Maybe everyone's on mute. Or, you can hear me. Okay, I just want to make sure. So I'm coming from a standpoint where we had helped facilities enroll in their NHSN process. So coming from our learning, what happened to us when we enrolled, I'm not someone from NHSN. So sometimes people will confuse that. So I am here to give you as much information as I can in getting enrolled and really to empower you to know where to look for information. So it's really a step-by-step guide. Hopefully there's not too much redundancy. But let's go ahead and get started. So the audience for this, let me advance my slides here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So really for this webinar and the series that we're going to hold, the first one out of 3, is any person enrolling in a dialysis clinic or center helpful for them. Any NHSN group users who want to understand the enrollment process. So you'll see below there's a web link about groups enrolling. And so you'll see a lot of web links throughout this presentation, which you can follow for more information. So this is a really good resource guide for you. I know the information is really dense, so here we'll try to tease it apart for you. So that's kind of the audience we're looking at, which I'm sure most of you are. Learning objectives. So for this particular webinar, I'm going to talk about where to find resources for NHSN enrollment, define the NHSN user roles, and explain the enrollment steps 1 through 5. So taking you from the very, very beginning in this one. Our next webinar will focus more on assigning rights and fun things like that. But for now, this is where we're going to get started. So here is 2 really helpful websites. I highly recommend you bookmark them. So you'll have them here to come back to if you don't remember where we started from. So you'll see the first one's general enrollment resources. The second is dialysis specific. Both very helpful. One's going to have more of the forms and information you need in your checklist. Other is just going to be a wealth of information. So both of these is really where you're going to be empowered to find the information that you need. So please keep those handy. I always refer to them very frequently. So you'll have those. You'll see the NHSN Help Desk email. I'll probably say it a few times, but NHSN will really only communicate with outside users through email. They're fairly responsive, so that means when you have questions, you'll need to email them. There isn't a phone, partly because they filter through so many questions that they prefer email. So you can go ahead and keep that handy as well, because I'm fairly certain you will probably need it at some point. So the enrollment checklist. So again, just highlighting your website where the enrollment checklist is listed. This is a really good place to start off with. So a lot of times, a lot of this information can seem really confusing of where to start. I love the checklist because you can tell where you are in the process. You can also help others in the process by understanding where they are in the checklist. So I just put that as a helpful tool. You really want to complete the steps in order. And the checklist also lists the time needed for each step. So they often, I found, give way more time than is actually needed for the steps, but there you can kind of get an idea. Again, a link directly to the checklist is here, so keep that handy. All of these beginning tools are really going to help you get on board. Another thing I should mention is that a lot of the steps we're talking about in this very first webinar are steps you're really only going to have to do once. You may need to refer back to certain things, but this is really the enrollment process. So even though the information may seem a little dense, if you follow the steps, you'll be able to get there just fine. This is what the checklist looks like. I know it's a little hard to see here, but you can see there's steps 1 through 5, and really just following those through will get you where you need to go in enrollment. So please keep that handy and refer to it throughout your process. Reference material. So here I am highlighting what's really going to be useful to you to refer to. I recommend just diving into all of this right away. So the reference materials, we also will have this as a handout for you that you can print out. We only gave about 3 different things for you to have as a handout in order for you to get started with. Otherwise, we really want to refer you to those websites because that's going to be where all this actually is. So this Facilitator Administrator Enrollment Guide is where that will be living. So it's a general resource. It's not necessarily specific to dialysis, but it contains instructions and tips that are really helpful when you get started in the process. So you have your checklist, and now you have your enrollment guide, both really helpful things. So talking a little bit about enrolling multiple dialysis clinics. So a few key things to keep in mind, and I know that everyone's needs will be a bit different, but each facility should enroll separately. So if you have multiple clinics enroll, for example, satellite clinics, start enrolling one first. After the first is enrolled, it's going to be much easier for the others to enroll, and here's a link to your instructions. So know that we're just kind of breaking the barriers to this process and that you can refer back to the slide set if you forget where you're at. So there's a link for you, pretty easy to go to. Key personnel roles. So this is something I found in our process that people can get a little bit confused with. So facility administrator, I remember being pretty confused about what this meant for me when I was doing the enrollment. So this is the person who's going to manage, right? It's going to manage locations. You can add and delete facilities. So it's basically your person at your facility that's in charge of NHSN. So making sure that the person who is in this role is able to perform those tasks. Just important to highlight that. Also, as staff turnover is an issue in any of your facilities, knowing that that facility administrator can reassign their role to another user. We will go over that in another webinar, but just so you get an idea that you want one person kind of in charge of the scope. We'll talk about how others can be involved in this in a minute. So you'll notice on NHSN there are so many checklists and lists of things to do. I really like this one too. It's also a simple thing you can look at. So here's again your 1 through 5. It's basically a skeleton of the checklist so you know where you're at. Helps me in my presentation to let you know where we are in the process too, especially if you're referring to this in the future. So So number one, training and preparation. This is where you can start now. There's all sorts of things. Reviewing the materials, just getting a good feel for it. If you have a person designated in your facility, use those websites. Just dive in. Again, here is the website again. I just put a note that any person collecting data, regardless of whether or not they have access to NHSN, must be familiar with the dialysis event protocol. So that is also on the website, and I promise we will get there, so not necessary to really keep it on the forefront right now. But really, get familiar with the information on that website. Those are the two sites you need to start sifting through and taking what you can. So technical steps for enrollment may require assistance from your IT department. Now, this is something that a lot of people get a little nervous about, which is reasonable. So knowing this, start to find out in your facility who your IT people are, if they're going to be available to help you with this process. Sometimes it's really not needed. You'll be the person to know that. So here are some things. So you can essentially find your IT person and even give them this slide. So it says here you want to add certain websites and trusted sites and Internet Explorer. So really find out who that person is. A lot of people don't have a problem at all. Know that the instructions can be quite long about this, so take the time, and that's my recommendation for that. There's also a phone number that you can call while downloading your certificate. It's really the only phone number that exists for NHSN, but those folks can help you when you're actually going through the process. So I know you'll have your tools of your IT department and also the NHSN folks to help, and they're solely for the digital certificate part, and that phone number will show up on one of our slides here. So that's the training and preparation. So really, that's where you should be starting today. As soon as you can, start looking at the materials, finding out about IT requirements. A lot of people need administrative rights on their computer. It's very specific to your facility. So start to do some investigating if you can. Register. So there's a link. That's where you go to begin your registration. So this is your first step after training and preparation. Basically, you just agree to the rules of the NHSN, and this is just a screenshot of it. I don't spend too much time here because it's pretty self-explanatory. So facility administrator completes the next form. You'll be prompted to go ahead and enter this information. This is just all your enrollment or one-time thing that you'll have to go through and do. So again, referring to the slide set will really help you when you start your process. So those are your two things that you do. So you enroll for your facility and fill out your contact information. Then you're going to get an email. NHSN works with a lot of emails. They'll detail exactly what you want. Now, I've made the mistake before of not reading the entire email. I'm sure there's many of us that see emails and kind of speed read through. Not the case with NHSN. You really want to read it carefully. It will save you time in the future when you miss over something. It's easy to do. So this email, the first email that you will get, will be instructions to request the certificate. So it's not the actual certificate, it's how to request it. So you've already prompted into the system, and then it's just going to lead you forward. So then you get to the requesting the certificate. So now you're in contact with NHSN. They sent you an email, and you're going to have to go in and get that certificate. So important, use the same email address entered during registration. This is because they're going to use this for your communication. This is how they're going to communicate with you with emails and links to download. So please use the same email. It can be work email. And as far as I know, this might need clarification. I had one facility that had a personal email. I think that's acceptable too, but it has to remain the same. So just know that. These are just detailed information. When you get to this point, you can refer back to hear about what things you want to select when requesting. So you'll see National Healthcare Safety Network. You'll want to select that from the program, and NHSN enrollment. These are just helpful things to help you along so you don't have to take too much time thinking about it and know that you'll have it done correctly. Requesting getting a challenge phrase. So that's one step. This challenge phrase you'll use every single time that you log into NHSN. One thing I've seen with this happening is that one, that people might not remember it, so please write it down. It's a little bit more difficult to get this reset than it would be another password in your life, like an email or some other login that you have, because NHSN is a very secure system. It takes a lot more channels to go through, so please write it down. There's instructions when you're actually doing, I'll have it on a screenshot next. So challenge phrase, when you're doing it, be very careful, special characters, things like that. Follow their instructions and just write it down. Keep it in a safe spot. Don't do like I do and think, oh, I'll remember it later. It doesn't always happen. Keep it written down. It will save you a lot of hassle in the future. So again, you'll need to provide this every time, and then you'll confirm it. So this is what it looks like. So see there where it says about choosing your challenge phrase, just read the directions, make sure that you're not putting in special characters that they won't accept. We did have one gal that we were helping put in a special character, and we couldn't figure out why she couldn't get in until we figured out she had one of these in there. So this is all stuff that will just save you time and streamline it for you. So if you're just going, what, is there a question? No question? Okay, I'll give some time for questions in a little bit. So once your challenge phrase is requested, again, you're just joining us. We're talking about challenge phrases and detailing the process. So you will receive a confirmation. So here's that second email. The email will come through, and here is where your directions to do the download is. Now, something to keep in mind, I have not seen this anywhere on the NHSN site. Perhaps it's somewhere very easy to find. These emails are actually time sensitive. So when you open the email, your second email, be ready to do the download. Don't wait around for a couple days. I'm not sure why it is. It looks like within 5 working days, you have to download it. So just be ready to do the actual download when you open it, just to save yourself any problems for that. You'll see in the email that they actually refer back to their help desk email if you have any problems. So there's that. And then if you see in that screenshot that I put, the SDN, the phone number, this is your one and only phone number. So use it if you need to, especially if you're the type of person that gets a little nervous when you're going through the download process and maybe you involve IT, maybe you're not too sure. Call them. That's what they're there for. They will help, hopefully, get your download and maybe help you troubleshoot if you can't get through. Or I found that they might be able to give you the correct verbiage to get to your IT department. I know for one thing that makes me a little uncomfortable sometimes is knowing the correct verbiage that I need to talk to the IT people about. So they're really great for that. So moving on, you'll see we're actually getting quite far along. Our list is not too painful. Install the digital certificate. So this is where we're actually going and installing the link. So it says within 3 business days, you'll receive an email. It's from this FinTech with a digital certificate. So that's the email that you saw. So the subject line will be action required. So that will prompt you to think, okay, when I do this download, I'm going to give myself enough time to do it. Maybe have an IT person, ideally if you can during that time, and have that telephone number that's listed right here for you. So those are resources just to help with your download to make it an easiest process as possible. So this is just another screenshot. This is what it will actually look like, and you'll see here that they recommend your IT specialist. You might not need that at all, but if you have the luxury of having that, just have it at your convenience to help the process along. So download the certificate into the computer that you will use. This is something that has come up that has been confusing towards some people. So they may want to report on one computer. So take a notice at your facility, who's your facility administrator and what your workflow is. So if you like to use a certain computer for doing one thing as opposed to another, know that the one that you're going to enter your data on will be the one that has the certificate. Again, follow the instructions carefully. For those of us who speed read like myself, it can be a little hard, but they're really there, and it can save you a lot of time. These are things I already went over. So you must use Internet Explorer to download, so keep that in mind. Your trusted sites that you'll want are there. Click Digital Certificate Request, approve email, and then you'll click Submit. So it's going to prompt you to add your challenge phrase, the one we just talked about. So there is your installation process. So I hope for all of you it goes very smoothly, but now you have some tools and some foresight of how to get prepared for that. So this is just what you'll see when you click download to install. Download is going to begin automatically if all your systems are set correctly. Your security warning is going to ask if you want to install, and again, click yes. Once installed, you'll get your confirmation page to verify. And this is just how that you'll click on tools and then internet options to see that it's there. So that's where you go and check for your certificate. See if there's anything else I need to highlight here. So save a copy of the digital certificate, always a good idea. And then how to locate your certificate on Internet Explorer. So click export to save. So I think I have a screenshot next, yeah. So this is a good place to refer you to when you're going through this process. Sometimes each of our computers can be a little bit different where you find things, but this is really good to go check. So some people get confused, or if you're the type of person who likes to see that it's there, this is how you do it. So give yourself a little peace of mind. And then here, this is what it looks like when you enter your challenge phrase. So I had somebody just email me today and say, well, I have my certificate, but I don't know if it's there. We'll see the website that I have there, the https://sdn.cdc.gov. If you do not know if it's installed correctly, you just go to that website. Then the prompt screen, this screen will come up. You'll enter your challenge phrase and get in. So in the very beginning, I talked about those two websites that I think you should bookmark. I strongly encourage. I also have this link bookmarked, so because I use it so frequently, I can just click on it. I don't have to think about it. It's there. If you don't remember, it's reiterated at least 1,000 times throughout the website, so you don't have to worry about it. But that will prompt you to go. So some more fun facts about digital certificates. They are user-specific, so you can't share them. The CDC does pay for each certificate, so do keep that in mind. We already talked about using it on the computer you will be using. You can install on additional computers if necessary, so there are instructions for that. So if that becomes a work issue for you, you can do that. If multiple users are going to share this NHSN, then they do say that you need multiple certificates, but they can be installed on the same computer, so that's good. Save a copy, and it is renewed annually. So this is something to keep in mind. Every year you will need to renew it. You do not need to go through this entire process. An email will be sent to you 30 days before with instructions. So keep that in mind. Years come before we know it sometimes. Okay, so here we are in our enrollment, steps 1 through 5. So we got through to 4. So the first 3 steps, 1 through 3A, 3B, that was all kind of your technical stuff, getting prepared, getting the emails, getting into the system, knowing where to find your information. And really a lot of people get really nervous about the actual installation of their digital certificate. But as we looked at, it's really not that hard as long as you have the tools to prepare for it and you set aside the appropriate amount of time. So once that's in, you're good to go for a lot of reasons. So you'll have to do some setup. What we'll talk about is submitting the forms electronically. So you'll log in. So once you're all set, you'll go to that website. Here it is again for you. And this is what your screen will look like. You'll notice from the very beginning, and again, I don't expect everyone to absorb all of this information at once, but just to get an idea of your process. So you're going to have to fill out some forms electronically in the very beginning. The forms that you will do is first you will enroll your facility. So this is all done electronically. However, we really recommend, see where it says access and print required enrollment forms, print those out and get started. It is so much easier to have it on paper. That being one reason. The other reason is I'll show you the other form that you have to fill out. So we have the facility contact, pretty easy, just basic information about your facility. Refer to this when you're filling it out because you'll see the facility type is the AMD hemodialysis center. Other things to look at. So just take a look when you're going over this part. Review these slides, little facts that you might need. So here's where it's available on the dialysis website as well. So what I was talking about wanting to print it out in paper. So your facility enrollment information, it's pretty easy. I recommend printing out. But the outpatient dialysis practices survey, you can't save it. So some people have found that they'll be going along and get something done and then get busy and go, wait a minute. Well, you can't save it. So print it out, then you can have it. The great thing about this is that you can start it today. So here's a link directly to it. You can just print it out, have it around, get it done. And then when you get to this point, it will be so much easier for you because you won't have to wait. You'll be able to enter it right away. And you do this once. It's an annual thing as well. So that's the link for it. Another part of the preparation. So things that you can do today are starting with your training, looking at the website, and printing out your outpatient dialysis practice survey. And again, this is where you can print out to submit forms electronically. So your facility, this is back where when I talked about printing out facility enrollment, this is what it looks like when you go online. So don't be confused here. You can print this out, but here's what it looks like. So you get an idea. Well, you can fill out all those things. Maybe you don't need to print this form out. That's fine. Facility type, again, is highlighted here, so you can have a little bit of help when you're walking through that you pick the correct thing. So we just like to highlight that for you to make it a little easier. And again, survey cannot be saved in process, so complete the paper form first. This is a little screenshot of what the beginning of the annual survey looks like, so you can get an idea. It's just an online form, pretty easy to fill out. Once survey information is saved, you'll click the green check mark. In all required forms, information is entered and saved. You'll click submit. You can print the survey from here if you'd like an additional copy of it. That's fine. So that's where you go to submit your enrollment form. So that's basically what you'll have to do for that. You're just joining us. We're talking about once we get our digital certificate, the beginning stages of enrolling in NHSN by submitting forms electronically and printing out forms before you start. So just review the slide set if you missed that. So I'm going to skip over this and go to our very last phase in our getting started. So we've done all of our forms. All of that has brought us to sign and send consent. Very easy part. So NHSN will send you an email. So basically what happens is they will receive your annual survey. They'll see that you enrolled your facility. That will trigger them. So you'll notice here there's a theme. One thing will trigger the next in kind of a process. So it can get a little confusing, but as long as you follow along, you'll be fine. So that will trigger that you'll get an email with a link to your consent form. Consent forms are facility specific, so even if you enroll more than one, each facility will get one. You'll have 30 days to open the link and print the form. Once printed, you can fax it to the CDC. So they have the number right on there for you. I think I have a screenshot. Yep, there it is. So it must be signed by patient safety primary contact and then requires a signature from the highest level administrator at your facility. So it's a really easy thing. You just submit it in. Now, one thing to keep in mind that I've noticed happens with this is that you may want to email and follow up if you haven't heard back from them about this. Sometimes because they're enrolling so many dialysis clinics, it can get a little backed up. You might not hear. So it's really good to follow up with them. You can send them an email and just let them know. I think that you'll be automatically generated a tracking number. You'll see at the screenshot, you can see, I know it's a little bit small, but you'll have a tracking number that goes on there that you can refer to when you're asking them. So in line with things triggering one another, so you'll have your sign and consent and sent it in, and then that will bring us to the next phase that we'll talk about in our next webinar. Here's what that email looks like. So 2 to 3 business days, you should get an email. But again, keep in mind that you'll want to see this email and that you can contact them and ask them about it. So this will be able to redirect you back to your NHSN portal. That's the where you enter your challenge phase. There is some new verbiage to learn with this program, so the NHSN portal is important to know because that's where you're logging in to NHSN. So you signed and sent the consent in, and then you are all set with that process of it. Let me see what my next. So yeah, the setup would be complete after that. Like I said, all the training, everything you could possibly ever want to know is on the dialysis event website. Set up NHSN for facility, add users, and assign users is what we're going to talk about next time. And these are just some things that we're going to talk about next time that are bulleted here, so in case you're wondering about it, these are just the very beginning steps of getting you all enrolled. So here's a suggested timeline. When we started our process here at Oregon Patient Safety with our facilities, it took us a lot longer than we had thought to complete the process. I think we were a bit ambitious, thinking we could get everyone up and enrolled. But know that if you really follow what is given to you, you'll be able to do it fairly quick. So this gives you an idea of the kind of time. And again, I think personally they overestimate some of the time, but that's fine. You can give yourself that kind of time. So you'll see complete training, use a week, register and request digital certificate. Depending on your facility, it could take a little bit longer, a little bit shorter for that. The required forms, which we talked about, took you into our third week, consent, and then set up NHSN and begin reporting data. So what I talked about in this particular webinar is timeline to be at almost 5 weeks. I think it can happen in a lot shorter time than that, but it's really up to you and what your team wants to do. And you'll see work on outpatient dialysis center practice survey is going on continuously through this process. So that's one of the things you can get started with right away to make submitting those forms a lot easier for you. So here's another reminder. Unfortunately, if you're one of those people like me that likes to call people and communicate, you really have to do it through email with NHSN, which they are very responsive. So have that in your foresight when you're doing this process. If you're having questions after you look through the information, know that you can use email to get in touch with them. They do respond fairly quickly. So I think that is really the very beginning. So just follow the tools that we gave for that. A little bit of our learnings were interjected into that of what we saw. And that is basically it. So I would like to open it up now for some questions if you have them. I know we have quite a few people on the line, so I will try the best I can to answer anything.
Thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have a question for Sarah about the NHSN certificate and downloading it or any other aspect of her presentation?
Yes, this is Selma out of Pleasantburg in Greenville, South Carolina. Question with the digital certificate. She sort of said something about it, but I want to make sure. If, say, I'm on my desktop and I do the digital certificate, and my secretary is going to be my person that's mainly going to help with it as well. Both of us have to have a certificate, or do we share the certificate?
You would both have one. That's a really good question. So I'm assuming you're going to start and be the facility administrator. So in our next webinar, we'll talk about, it's very easy. So if you have a secretary who you want to help, basically, I won't get too into it now, but you'll add her as a user and she'll be able to get her own. Now, she won't have to go through this entire process we talked about. She'll basically just be able to download the certificate, allowing her to get in and help you out with it. So you will need two separate ones. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. No problem. Anyone else? I know it's an awful lot of information to digest.
And again, if you want to take yourself off mute, it's *6 again.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Mary Ann Fernanding from Liberty, Banksville. And when I click on my digital certificate, it opens up to Certificate Import Wizard. It asks for a password for the private key.
I'm thinking that might be your challenge phrase.
that does not work there.
It does not. I'm not sure. So you already are in the process of downloading your certificate, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you, in that email, did you get that? It's a very long instruction list from NHSN. Do you know, it's like a black and white. It should be in the email.
No, I did not.
If you can find the email that they gave you with the link to install and see if they link to some instruction list, it's quite a redundant list, but it may help you troubleshoot where you are in that process. I'm not really sure what that would mean. My only guess was that it could be a challenge phrase. However, remember in the presentation how I talked about there's one number you can call? That's the number you would call for that because they will be able to help you with your digital certificate. So I would go ahead and give them a call and let them know what's going on, and they can help you troubleshoot that.
What was that number again?
It's in the slide set. What's that?
Have that phone number?
It is in our slide set that will be available for you. It's the 1-800 number. Here I am backing up here. I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but we will find it. Is there any other questions? I'll get that number up here on the screen for you. I think I will.
I want to verify the fact that
Here it is.
1-800.
It's the 532-9929. So that's good for anyone to know. Problems with the actual download, you're going to want to call them and help troubleshoot. Because it could be computer specific. It will be easy. I found them to be very responsive on that phone number. I hope you have the same experience, but I'm sure they deal with a variety of things. So again, they can give you the information you need to continue on.
Okay, thank you very much.
I wanted to say the instructions that come with that original email are very useful. Okay. And there's a part in there where it actually asks you to enable something on your computer. I believe if you're not following those instructions, you may have trouble downloading your certificate.
Yep, I think that's good advice. And there are those instructions that come with it. So really being able to look back on your email to see if you can find them. And if they can't help you there, which they should be able to, they could also send you another instruction list.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do you have any additional questions for Sarah?
I missed the first part of this, the first 15 minutes.
Did you say you missed the first 15? I did. Okay, okay.
So, but it sounds like I'm actually to the point of I've requested the digital certificate download. So I'm in that process of waiting maybe up to a week for that to come. I believe.
You're correct. Yeah, so your next step then is that you'll receive an email with instructions from it. And so the first 15 minutes actually was getting up to that point, so you didn't really miss too much.
I thought so, so I just wanted to verify that.
You'll get an email, and the only thing that I talked about, and I'm not actually sure if it's an exact science, it's just something I found, is that email to be time sensitive. So it says it has about a week once you get the email to download it once you open the email. So you'll get an email that says action required, and then you'll be able to follow the instructions. So that's where your instructions are, as well as the download link. So you should be able to follow those. And again, the phone number that's up on the screen right now, you can call if you have problems.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Are you redoing any of these calls at any time?
What was that?
Are these calls going to be redone at any time? Because there's so many of us getting in.
Well, I believe that it is being recorded.
We did ask for it to be recorded, so
that will be as a resource, and the slide set will also be a resource. So basically everything I talked about within the slide set. So if you have folks that need to look at it, it's a step-by-step.
Okay. And
it's also available on the website, too.
At the sbn.cdc.gov or?
No. In the very beginning, so I'm going to go back to it.
I'm sorry, and that's the part I probably missed.
Oh, it's okay. So see here, those two websites are going to have all the information you need for the entire process.
I need to write them down.
They can be quite dense in information, but you'll be able to sort through them. And again, use this if you, I think this presentation will be published, the slide set, and just use the presentation to go step by step too. It will really help a lot.
I hope so. How will we get the presentation?
Chad, can you speak to that? I believe it was going to be posted.
We have requested it to be posted up on the event website. And if it's not up there in a day or so, I will ensure, I've got everyone's email address, and I'll ensure that we send out a copy of it, or at least a link to it.
Okay. Also, in response to that as well, where it says general enrollment resources on that website, you can find almost a similar slide set on the website. So you can just go through that too. They have all the resources you would need.
Okay.
So by that website, you're talking about these websites here, correct?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I'm almost done, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I don't think we need to flip forward to anywhere, so.
What's that? ESC underscore, isn't it? Underscore CA.
Is there anyone else with any questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I thank you, Sarah, and I want to remind everyone this is the first in a three-part webinar series. We have another one next Friday at 2 o'clock Pacific. It'll be NHSN step-by-step dialysis event surveillance and reporting to NHSN. And just a reminder, you need to sign up for each individual WebEx, individually at https://qualitynet.webex.com. And then the third in the series will be on July 27th at the same time, and that will be on surveillance module and generating data reports. And again, I've just asked the web host where the web handouts are, and if I don't hear back from Nicole in a second, then what we'll do is we'll email those out to everyone who participated.
Yeah, those handouts will really help also get started, but my advice is just take it step by step, and we'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.